Test.
Here's their point. The website is Sophia. We're on a deal. And here's Ben. They're trying to show what some kids are getting this and some kids are getting this. Let's make everybody Ben. But a promise left behind. On this one. So I was looking at the people that were on the work groups. The only one that I really know is Rich Bear. He's on the. They're taking applications. Oh yes. So Rich is there. I don't know her. I know Kelly Church, right? They're investing.
Call the meeting to order.
Mr. Harris?
Here.
Mr. Melody?
Here.
Mr. Weininger?
Here.
Mrs. May?
Here.
And Mr. Valentine.
Here. Mr. Harris, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Approval of the special board minutes for the February 3rd, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. May. Is there a second?
A second.
Second by Mr. Melody. Questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Mrs. May,
Yes.
Mr. Melody,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Weininger,
Yes.
and Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Approval of the regular minutes for the February 8th, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Melody. Is there a second? I'll second. Questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Melody,
Yes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Weininger,
Yes.
and Mrs. May.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Approval of the minutes for the February 17th, 2021 special board meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Melody. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Weininger. Questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Melody,
Yes.
Mr. Weininger,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. May,
Yes.
and Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Approval of the minutes for the February 22nd, 2021 regular work session meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Weininger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. May. Questions, comments? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weininger,
Yes.
Mrs. May,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mr. Melody,
Yes.
and Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Approval of the agenda for this evening's meeting. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Weininger. Is there a second?
A second.
We have one person signed up for public participation at this point, and we have executive session on, so thinking that we throw public participation in front of the first executive session in order to help accommodate time-wise.
I'm okay with the adjustment in my motion.
Okay.
Good on your end, Brian?
Yeah.
All right. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weininger,
Yes.
Mr. Melody,
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. May,
Yes.
and Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Mr. Baker, awards and recognitions.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Good evening, everyone. We have Golden Shamrock Awards this evening. It's my pleasure to introduce Ed Putnaki. Ed, come on up. Ed founded the Golden Shamrock in 1990, so we believe this to be one of the longest-running awards programs in the state of Ohio for employees. Our first Golden Shamrock tonight will be presented by Mike Ulring, who is the principal at Dublin Kaufman High School. So, Mr. Ulring, come on up.
Board of Education, thank you for allowing us to be here. Ed, of course, thank you as always for all your service and allowing us to recognize teachers here at Kaufman High School. Tonight, I get to recognize Mr. David Woodmansey, social studies teacher and coach at Kaufman High School for many years, a graduate of Dublin High School years ago. I'm sure he'll touch on that a little bit. But I'm very honored to have him here and be able to celebrate him. I'll say a few things from a student nomination. If you don't mind, I'm going to read a few things. It says, Mr. Woodmansey is by far the best teacher I've ever had the privilege to learn from in my entire educational career. He truly cares about each and every one of his students, and he takes pride in ensuring that all of us feel safe and welcome in his classroom. He makes the learning environment a fun and engaging place, even virtually, and works tirelessly, especially this year, to ensure that students can still participate in interactive activities remotely. Above all, Mr. Woodmansey inspires all of his students to continue their learning even outside of school. He has a genuine passion for helping us connect history to our everyday lives. He's had a positive impact on countless students' lives, and he treats everyone with respect and gratitude. He's incredibly charismatic and kind and has a kind personality. He's a teacher who makes learning history interesting for everyone, even students who are struggling or do not enjoy it. Mr. Woodmansey is incredibly deserving of this award. A few of his colleagues I talked to a few of his colleagues as well, who he's worked with very closely, and I'll just hit a few highlights. But it says, David, otherwise known as the Doc, is an amazing person, educator, coach, and colleague. His love of learning and teaching is contagious and evident in everything that he does. I personally cannot thank Mr. Woodmansey, think of a more deserving person than Mr. Woodmansey to win this award. He's an exceptional teacher, person, and mentor. He makes our school, the Dublin community, and the planet Earth a better place. That might sound exaggerated, but David's pure heart resonates with all of his students. He's impacted my life and my career in more ways than I can articulate. I'm eternally grateful. He's a huge part of House B, our freshman houses. Almost all students talk about how he is the GOAT and their favorite teacher. That's very nice, but it hurts my feelings. I wish we could bottle whatever it is that makes the kids love David so much. If we all had it, we would all have fun, fulfilling lessons to engage all of our students who would then achieve their highest potential. And then the rainbows and the unicorns would appear. In all seriousness, I know David's efforts completely exhaust him, but he never gives up on kids, and that is the real reason why students love him so much. David, I've told you many times what I think about you as an educator. You've had an impact on my life, my kids' lives, and many, many other people at Kaufman High School. As great of a teacher as you are, you're a better person. And Kaufman High School, Dublin City Schools, could not be more grateful to have you as a part of the staff here. So I want to congratulate you and thank you. So come on up.
All right. You guys have Kleenex here because I might need it. I just want to say I started my journey in Dublin City Schools at Deer Run Elementary School when it opened. So I think there was Indian Run and Deer Run at the time. So I've clearly seen the district grow a lot. But to kind of date me a little bit more, 1990, when Ed started this award, I was a senior at Dublin Kaufman High School, or Dublin High School. And I was aware of some of the teachers that received it. And being in the district for as long as I have, I'm just honored to be in the same, even named in the same group with those teachers. I don't think I deserve to be, but I know how massive an honor it is. And I hope you know how much we really do truly appreciate it. And so it means a lot to me. You know, most of the things that were said about me as a teacher, honestly, I took from my colleagues. I'm just good at taking what I see in the best of my colleagues and then incorporating it. So their fingerprints are all over this award. And more importantly, my students. My students inspire me. They help me figure out what works best in the classroom. And I wish they were all here to stand up behind me because honestly, they're such a big part of anything that I've ever done. And I guess the last thing is just, you know, having people that have faith in you, that let you try different things. And I've had the best leader any person could ever want to work for in Mike Allring and, you know, countless other people, but that I'm fortunate to have worked under. But Mike, you know, all the things that he was saying, he made up half of that, but so I appreciate it. One of the things he's great at is inspiring us to do the best we can. And so I just feel fortunate to stand before you representing some of your children in this room that I've had the pleasure of teaching. And so many, like I said, fingerprints that are on that Golden Shamrock Award. It's definitely, I'm just kind of a reflection of all of that. So thank you. It's a huge honor from a boy who started off second grade, Mrs. Farron's, you know, classroom at Deer Run Elementary School, and then went to Sells when it first opened up. And so I've been here, and it's been an awesome journey, and I'm excited for many more years. And thank you again. I'm greatly honored, board. Thank you for having me today. And thank you for so many of you out there. It's great to see you, and I appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate it. probably me. Thank you.
So our second Golden Shamrock tonight will be presented by Mr. Matt Sockleben, who is the principal at Sells Middle School.
All right. Well, thank you to the Board of Education, Dr. Holy, for allowing us to be here this evening to recognize one of our own at Sells Middle School. I'm here tonight to talk about Mrs. Chris Chesser. She is our choir director. And Mrs. Chesser has been in the district now for 22 years. 20 of those years, she has walked the halls of Sells Middle School. And I think I personally believe that within the last 2 years, she has done some of the most satisfying work she has ever accomplished in terms of working with our special needs class and our students who demonstrate these special needs. The SLC teachers approached her and said, wouldn't it be great if we were able to create a general music class for these SLC students? And Chris just took it on. They brought me the idea, and like anything, the ideas in our building, it's just don't give me a reason to say no. And so, and there really wasn't any reasons for it. And Chris has done an outstanding job of building this for the last 2 years and having these students come in. It's a wonderful thing to see these students singing and dancing and playing their boomsticks and whatever else, the boom whackers and things like that, the drums, and playing rhythms and reading music and demonstrating that all students definitely can learn, that all students definitely can perform at high levels. So Chris has done an outstanding job. And I did share with you all the video this morning and in an email. I hope you did get an opportunity to look at that. So and you can see the song and demonstration of a song that the children did perform for her. She had no idea that that performance was going to take place. And specifically, there was not a song they worked on in class. That's a lot of the stuff that they worked on their own with their teachers, the SLC teachers, and the knowledge that they had taken on, and then were able to perform for Chris. But I also would like to mention some other things that have been said about her from her colleagues, and specifically they have said, Chris has gone out of her way to create an exploratory music class for students at our building with the most significant needs. Her ability to connect with students through music, whether they are verbal or not, is amazing. Our students look forward to her class and are engaged throughout the entire period. Her dedication to exploring techniques and taking risks with new ideas almost always pays off. Mrs. Chesser willingly took on the role of teaching exploratory music with our SLC students the past 2 school years. She creates the most wonderful and engaging lessons that all the students love. She finds ways to include each individual student in all the songs, dances, and instrumental practice. Thank you, Chris, for taking the time to help our students grow and learn. They love coming to music class every week. It is the one place they can go in their school day and be totally successful no matter what their issues are. She immediately met our kids where they are with such a happy and accepting demeanor. We sing, we laugh, we make music, and we dance. She has taken on our kids and created a wonderful place for them, and for that, we are all so grateful. Having a unique class to go to where you can be exactly who you are and be encouraged to shine is just what Chris has given our SLC students in the creation of this music class. It's a caring environment where our students learn lots of new musical concepts that they are able to accomplish, as well as have the opportunity to laugh, engage, celebrate each other while enjoying singing and dancing. When the very first thing your student says to you in the morning is, "Music today?" it's evident the impact she is making on them. The SLC staff clearly feels like it's one of our favorite times of our days, too. I have observed her. She has asked me to observe her during these times formally, and I tell you what, she works. And I think she feels like she's ran a marathon when she's done with this class because it's nonstop from the start to the finish, and these kids are engaged 100%. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Chris Chesser here for the Golden Shamrock Award.
Thank you, everyone. I really hope you did get a chance to watch that video because the kids were amazing. I did not know it, and they used all the techniques that we had worked on in class to perform that piece. So it was an honor, and I was so proud of them. I'd just like to say thank you to Matt Socklaben, Joe Santa Emma, and Julie Moses, the principals of our lovely school at Sells, who make it the best middle school in Central Ohio. I'd like to thank Megan Tucker and Nicole Mooney for coming to me and asking me to teach this class a couple years ago. At first, I didn't know what in the world to do, but they had faith, and we went and ran with it. And for Chelsea Campbell, Leah Martin Hecker, and Suzanne Blair Ewing, music teachers at Carr and Davis, respectively, who allowed me to observe their class, get ideas. And like Mr. Woodmansey said, I take ideas that I see and incorporate them into our classes that I know our kids can do. And that's what working together is all about. And I'd like to also thank the amazing paraprofessionals that we have at our building: Lori Blazer, Amy Stryker, Diane Kukula, Billy Thayer, Jordan Whitehouse, and David Bobson, and they come ready to play every day. They're ready to sing, dance, play instruments, help the kids as best they can, and make that class a success. I couldn't do it without them. All the activities that we do in the class are designed to meet those students' needs where they are and to help them feel successful and accepted and themselves but still having fun. And it's a testament to the power of music and what it can do and reach all people. And if you ever want to have a really good time, you're all free to visit and come and play along with us. So anytime, you are welcome. Thank you very much for this honor. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. For public participation this evening, apologize, I'm not going to try and pronounce your last name. I can't tell with the writing, but if you would like to come up at this time, please state your name, address, and typically speakers have right around 3 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mike Bolin. I live at 7068 Greenland Place by Jerome High School. I have 3 young children, ages 3, 3, and 5. I will start off and say thank you to the Board of Education for voting last week to get our kids back in school. The next step is defining what it will take to remove the masks in school. On Thursday, after a year of no clear criteria, Governor DeWine finally announced to lift the health orders when we have 2 weeks of 50 cases or less per 100,000 population. Were the health orders legal to begin with? If the masks work, shouldn't the state legislators put into law when and where to wear the mask based on facts and data? The 50 cases per 100,000 population is very broad criteria when it relates to the school district. For example, do false positives count? Are kids affected? Will we ever achieve 50 cases due to the increased amount of testing? I have many long-term health concerns related to wearing masks, social distancing, and dousing our children with chemicals such as hand sanitizers. An example is not exposing our immune systems to germs, especially at a young age, which I have 3 young kids. According to the CDC, the leading causes of death in Ohio are heart disease, cancer, and accidents. COVID deaths are approximately equivalent to the number of accidents, not even close to heart disease or cancer. We know what causes heart disease. If I control every diet in the state of Ohio, I guarantee I prevent 90% of heart disease deaths over the course of 30 years by enforcing solid eating habits. Why don't we? I wonder where we would be now if for the last year plus we spent as much time investing in nutrition, eating habits, and various therapies as we did masks, vaccine, and social distancing. A lot of decisions are based off the local medical community. I have many questions for them. However, the medical community expertise should only be a piece of the equation. For example, what are the local morgue statistics over the last year compared to previous year? I would guess the number one contributor to people not getting sick is employers promoting, if you are sick, stay home. From an educational perspective, what long-term effects does wearing a mask and social distancing have on our children? How many students are struggling mentally? How many students are struggling who rely on lip movements to communicate? How many students change their breathing pattern? The list goes on. When is enough enough? I myself am having issues with all of these. Former President Trump said, "We can't have the cure be worse than the problem." So I am asking the board to address two items. One, clearly outline to the community the steps it will take to remove the masks. Will it be the day that Governor DeWine lifts the health orders? Two, being, what happens if Governor DeWine doesn't lift the health orders? I am asking that if the health orders are not lifted by the start of the next school year, then the parents are surveyed and the parents get to make the decision. Clarity on these two items will allow my wife and I to make the best decision for our family. Thank you for your time, and God bless.
Thank you. All right. In accordance with Ohio Revised Code 121.22G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, the Dublin Board of Education will go into executive session to consider, 1, the B, employment of a public employee or official. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Weininger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. May. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. For those watching at home, we will be going into executive session, so it will come back live when we are out. Thank you. All right, the meeting will come back into session. Yep, got the music. Board President's Board of Education comments, committee reports. Any to cover this evening? Nope, all right. Superintendent's reports.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Members of the Board of Education, I'd like to now share with you a decision that I've been thinking about for quite some time and to give you some background concerning my thoughts. Last year saw a much heated public debate over school policies surrounding COVID, whether and how school staff can advance political or social issues in classrooms, and other challenges facing large, high-achieving public school systems. In many cases, one vocal group wanted a particular outcome, and another vocal group wanted a completely different outcome. They expressed their strong opinions in hundreds, perhaps thousands of emails, phone calls, text messages, social media posts, and personal conversations with me. I found myself frustrated during this passionate and at times angry public conflict. While I have enjoyed my 23 years as a public school superintendent, lately it has become clear that the divisions within our society have found their way into school governance in bigger and bolder ways. As someone who has dedicated his entire career to helping students, I cherish the work we do that helps young men and women learn, grow, and achieve. I want to focus my work to be on those positive things. Recognizing this, the board and I have been in discussions considering my next 4 years at Dublin City Schools. I believe my work will be more effective and provide the most value to the district if I work in a role within the administration that's more behind the scenes, where I can support the work of other district leaders. This is a decision I've been thinking about for quite some time, and I appreciate the time the board has spent considering this as well. My master's in business operations, my PhD, my work in Lean Six Sigma, and my expertise in operational excellence give me insights that can really help our district, and I'm really looking forward to an opportunity for a new role with Dublin City Schools. If the board makes this change, I would be helping the administrative team transition to a new superintendent over the next several months, and I would be hopeful to be an ambassador to the important community stakeholders who are a part of the Dublin difference. I would also anticipate taking on other assignments the Board of Education gives me and to proudly serve our district the best I can. I've been blessed to lead such an amazing district, and I expect I will likewise enjoy a new role here in the district that would allow me to achieve in other areas. Thank you.
Reflecting back on the past year, this has been an incredibly difficult time for the district, for everybody in this room, and perhaps for no one more than Dr. Hoadley as well. I am appreciative of your comments tonight. I know that this is difficult and most definitely is not easy as you look at making this sort of transition. As we reflect back on the time that you've been here in Dublin with your wife, with your family, I think I can say on behalf of the board that we're thankful for the risk that you took moving to Dublin, relocating your family here, and all that you've done to serve our community and serve our children.
Thank you.
In anticipation of this change and at my direction, I did ask our legal counsel to put something together. Board members, I was able to provide you that prior to this meeting. There is a question now as to whether the board would like to consider that proposal.
I make the motion to amend the agenda to approve the resignation of Dr. Hoadley's upcoming superintendent contract and to approve a new 4-year administrator contract for Dr. Hoadley.
Is Mrs. May makes the motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harris. The motion to amend the agenda to approve the resignation of Dr. Hoadley's upcoming superintendent contract and to approve a new 4-year contract for Dr. Hoadley has been seconded. Is there any discussion at this time?
Thank you, President Valentine. So, Dr. Hoadley, this has been an incredible, difficult time for you. And as I mentioned at our last meeting, there were many people in this room who had many, many endless sleepless nights, but you probably counted the nights that you actually slept. And so we have a lot of appreciation for all the time and effort that you spent guiding us through the pandemic and its toll and the difficulties. I like to think about some other achievements from your time as superintendent. And I think the first one that I think of is every time that I walk in this building, I'll think about the time that you said, hey, we're going to buy the Verizon building and turn it into Emerald Campus, and here we are. Close to those are other achievements, the Bridge Street, where you helped this board and city council and the city manager to negotiate that the Bridge Street that brings all parts of Dublin together, north, south, east, west, and it's a flourishing place of business and residence. And you, within that, the library, and that's also a great achievement that you helped facilitate for this school, our community, and this board. Equal to and more powerful to the people that live in the city of Columbus that go to Dublin City Schools, you were very instrumental in removing the win-win. So now every 5 years, a family that lives in the city of Columbus and their children go to Riverside, Wright, Old Sawmill, Chapman, Davis, or Scioto, they don't have to wake up every 5 years and wonder whether their children will still be in our schools, the Dublin City Schools, because you were instrumental in removing the win-win agreement. Those are some of the overall achievements, but you know, there's a lot of captured memories and moments. These are events that we enjoyed together as a board with you. Our parade, it's in the little schoolhouse. Donuts for bus drivers at 5 a.m. And I think we might have attended every PTO fun night, including the pie eating contest to which you happily engaged. And I think you might have won. Yeah. Maybe they let you win. So thank you wholeheartedly from this board member, this board, and this community, and my family as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Stu.
And we'll look forward to your time here with us to accomplish more.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Any additional comments?
Yeah, we'll say also, Dr. Hoadley, you know, as Stu said and as you said in your comments, this past year has been unprecedented with the global pandemic and the intense political scene and the environment. I cannot imagine the stress that you've been through and the impact on yourself personally and professionally. You know, I too thank you for your leadership, not only through the past year in the pandemic, but for the district for the past 8 years. As Stu said, there are many great accomplishments that you should be very proud of. I'm just piggybacking on a few of them. The Bridge Street agreement, that allows us to implement the one-to-one program. That was the foundation to start allowing that one-to-one program, which in essence helped us through the pandemic this past year. Without that, this past year would have been so different from a remote learning standpoint. You know, passing the multiple bond levies, opening new buildings in addition to the Emerald Campus. We've got 2 new elementary schools, a new centralized preschool, and a new middle school coming this year. Those were all done as part of the planning through your leadership. And then as Stu mentioned as well, solidifying the boundaries by removing us from the decades-old win-win agreement. So those are all testaments of your legacy here in Dublin. And I'm sorry to see you move on from being our superintendent, but I'm extremely confident there's going to be a smooth transition, and I continue to look forward working with you as a board and personally as we continue to shape the future of the district.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott.
Dr. Hoadley, I'd like to thank you so much for all the efforts that you've given us over the years. I think that as you look forward to a new role with Dublin Schools, there are some exciting things that could be developed through this new role that you'll be in. But I'll defer to Mr. Harris and Mr. Melody on some of your accomplishments. Before, I won't repeat those, but what I'd like to thank you for is bringing your family to our district. You have a wonderful wife, Angie, and she's a wonderful person to be around, and I know you appreciate her as well, and your children, having them here in the district. They were high achievers, and they're doing great things, and I appreciate the type of parenting that both you and Angie do. So thank you so much for your children and for bringing your family to our district.
Thank you, Rick. They've had a great experience.
I don't want to double back, but I do want to thank you for your service, Dr. Hoadley. Thank you.
With comments being made, Mr. Kern, please call the roll.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. All right. Moving on to
That
voting.
was just to amend the agenda,
Yep.
so they actually, okay.
So that amends the agenda. At this point, we need to have a motion on the vote of resignation and the new contract. I will make the motion to approve Dr. Hoadley's resignation from his upcoming superintendent contract for the years 2021 through 2025, and to approve in its place a new 4-year administrative contract. Is
Second.
Second by Mr. Weininger. Any additional discussion? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
And Mrs. May?
Motion passes 5-0. Treasurer's office.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Just a couple things on the agenda for this evening. We do have an appropriation change. Just want to point out a few things on that. The federal grants were reallocated from the Ohio Department of Education, and yes, that is right. One of them is a whopping 34 cents they take away from us, but with other changes. But then one other of the grants that you see the increase and decrease is from a local fund where we got more guidance this past week that needs to be accounted for in a state fund. So really no changes, but just that. Approval of resolution is rates and determined by the Budget Commission. About 2 meetings ago, you approved what would have been an amended resolution of the prior year. This is for this current year as we go forward. This again is a statutory requirement that is necessary through the Budget Commission in Franklin County. And we had 2 donations, one from the Roman Alley Scholarship Fund to Grizel Athletic Department, and the other from Deer Run PTO to Deer Run to do some stuff on their playground. That has been run through the operations department to be able to make sure we can do that. So are there any questions on the agenda this evening?
Is there a motion? Moved by Mrs. May. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Melody. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine?
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Department of Academics and Student Learning. Dr. Deagle.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have several approvals for you to consider. The first is the approval of interdistrict open enrollment capacity resolution. This is specifically a resolution to set our buildings at a lower rate that is our normal capacity for the purpose of intra-district transfer to attempt to preserve the balance that we created during our redistricting process. Also for your consideration and approval this evening is the middle school course handbook, which has no significant changes from last year, as well as the approval of the MOU for the Aviation Academy that you heard about from Christy Venny last board meeting. And finally, this is our annual approval for our fee payment for Peter Riddle and his investigative services. We use Mr. Riddle to determine residency for our families, saving the district much money throughout the years. Are there any questions this evening?
Nope.
Thank you.
It's recommended by the superintendent, the Board of Education approve items 9A, 9B, 9C, and 9D. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Weininger. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. May. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
And Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Department of Operations.
Good evening. I have two items for your approval tonight. The first one is recommended that we approve an attached resolution for CTL Engineering for a contract worth $89,875 to be a design firm that will construct the drawing specifications and bid documents to design the solutions for Indian Run storm drainage remediation and two revised bid documents and drawings for the Indian Run flat roof to reflect drainage tie-in. The next item for your approval, it's recommended that we amend a current contract we have that the board approved last year with MSA Sports to provide, for $27,000 to provide basic design services for a not-to-exceed amount of $6,000 in reimbursable related expenses. This additional design work is a continuation of the work awarded to MSA last year. It revises the bid specifications to the Davis Middle School interior bleachers and provides additional specifications and requirements to the Kaufman Visitor exterior bleachers for both repair and replacement options. Are there any questions?
It's recommended by the superintendent, the Board of Education approve the attached resolutions 11A and 11B. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. May, second by Mr. Harris. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
Mr. Weininger? And Mr. Valentine.
Yes, motion passes 5-0. Human Resources, Mr. Marsh.
Good evening. A couple items to bring to your attention this evening. We do have one stipend for your approval tonight. That is in connection with our District Equity Inclusion Task Force. So you'll notice that on the agenda for your approval tonight. On the certified agenda, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jill Reinhardt's retirement that's on there. I want to say thank you to Jill for her friendship and her support during my time here, but more importantly for her outstanding service to our community, our staff, and our students. Jill is an expert in her field, and I've never seen someone that works as hard as Jill does. So thank you, Jill, for your service to the district and your friendship. Also on the agenda tonight, you'll see Brian Boney is being recommended to become your next Executive Director of Human Resources for the following school year. Again, Brian's been an outstanding partner and friend, and will do a great job in that role in the upcoming year. Under employment, number 3, we're asking for your approval for 2 new coordinators in the Human Resource Office. Carly Collins comes to us from Westerville City Schools, currently an HR specialist, and Lynette Fott from Marysville City Schools as their current HR director. Under number 4, again, we'd like to recognize 2 of our long-serving teachers that will be retiring, Susan Arce with over 20 years experience in the district, and Elizabeth Holland with over 25 years in her role in the district. On the classified agenda tonight, again, a couple recognitions of folks that will be retiring recognize their service in the district. Bert Dowden, our transportation driver, with 15 years service, and David Smith with 9 years service to the district. Thank you for your service to the district. You'll also notice on the classified agenda, item 2, we're asking for your approval for a resolution, attached resolution for a recall for a building educational attendants. They serve in the lunchroom, supervising and supporting students, those folks will be needed when we return to a full return in our elementary schools on March 15th. Also in item 3 and item 4 on the classified agenda, item 3, you'll see several folks, again, connected to full return that will be supporting our elementary buildings as library parapros, library aides, and building educational attendants. And then number 4, you'll see several folks that are moving into new roles in the district at the elementary to support full return. That's all the items on the agenda tonight. Any questions tonight? Thank you.
There being none, it's recommended by the superintendent, the Board of Education approve items 13A, 13B, and 13C. Is there a motion? Moved by Mr. Weininger. Is there a second? I'll second. Call the roll, please.
Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
And Mrs. May?
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you for your service, Joe, and congrats, Brian. Reports from the Office of Public Information.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. Good evening again, everyone. Just to remind you all that our communication around March 15th continues. That's a week from today. And so our question and answer webpage has been out there, tweeting that out there, putting that on Facebook. We have talking points to principals, reminding folks about Wednesdays at the high school level, as that's a little different from the other levels. Should have bus routes available on the website later this week. And just want to remind everybody that lunches and breakfasts are free until June 30th. So that's important information for parents to have. So we're getting that out there on social as well. Working on a lot of non-COVID-19 related items. Additionally, 60 years of Indian Run. We celebrate. The building opened March 12th, 1961. So we're releasing about a 10-minute video this Friday, March 12th, to commemorate that in lieu of having anything in person. Leadership Dublin tour of the district is also virtual. It's tomorrow via Zoom. Usually those folks come on a bus and meet with Dr. Hoadley and Mr. Kern and tour 3 or 4 buildings, and not doing that this year for obvious reasons, but we're going to do it via Zoom, and we're going to have various department heads talk to those folks. And just a couple of really positive things I'd like to end on. So Dublin-thon, you may be aware of that event. It's part of an event that Ohio State does called Buckeye-thon. They raised more than $11,000 over the weekend with a lot of virtual activities. Not easy when your main thing used to be a dance, and now it's virtual. And I just want to point out John Witt at Dublin Scioto and what he's doing with something online called the Tesla Experience. If you get a chance, it's on our website. It's really amazing stuff in this virtual environment. And so just happy to have those positive stories to share with everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Items for board discussion or future agenda items? All right, there being none, in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 121.22G, 12345 5, and 6, the Dublin Board of Education will go into executive session to consider 1, the B, employment of a public employee or official. Is there a motion? Moved by Mrs. May. Is there a second? I will second. Call the roll, please.
Mrs. May?
Yes.
Mr. Valentine?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Melody?
Yes.
And Mr. Weininger?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. There will be no action coming out of executive session. Thank you.